County, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
It's time to wake up and get driving in the fast lane here on Beaver County Radio. It's the morning show that talks about what's happening in the news, locally, regionally, and nationally. There's also music to get you started for the day. It's all brought to you by Patriot Home Care. And now, here is the host of the show, Frank Sparks.
It is just after 8 o'clock, about 8:13 this morning in Beaver County. And as we do each and every other Friday, joining me now is Steve Higgins from the Larry Bruno Foundation. And I see a sign on the building. Is this true, Steve?
The sign is up.
All right. Yeah.
You know what that means, Frank? The pressure is on. Okay. So now that the sign is up, we have to get our stuff together and get this place open for this public. It's been long in the long process, and I always said once the sign's up, then nothing's holding us back. But how wrong could I be?
Well, and today we're talking all things Beaver Falls. And today we're going to be joined by none other than probably one of the busiest guys in town in Beaver Falls right now because of spring sports, none other than Beaver Falls Athletic Director Jim Carbone.
It's amazing what these ADs go through day to day. Mm-hmm. You know, you go to these events, you go to these ball games, and you just watch everything, unfold in front of you, and you do not realize all the hard work that these ADs put in. And today we happen to have who I think is the dean of athletic directors in Beaver County, Jim Carbone from Beaver Falls. It's hard to think of Jim as being around that long because he's so young still, and he still has such a long way to go. But he has been at this for a long time. He knows what he's doing. And Beaver Falls is very lucky to have an AD like Jimmy Carbone.
No doubt. Well, good morning, Jim. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Steve. And Steve, thanks for those kind words in regards to me. Some days are they're pretty tough, and some days I don't feel like I'm doing the greatest that I could be doing. But we're moving along, and Frank, as you said, spring sports we're definitely underway now, and guys, it's been a great week, obviously with this weather, and we're fortunate to get out there, baseball, softball, and track. It's been great this week.
So, Jim, tell us a little bit about your career at Beaver Falls, and when you did eventually become the AD of Beaver Falls, what led you there?
Well, so Frank, how it started was back in the late 80s, early 90s, I was coaching football. I was on Ronnie Shiro's staff at Riverside at the time. And so I started to kind of rethink some things in my life, and I decided I was going to go back to college and get my teacher certification, and eventually I did. And I was hired as a teacher at Beaver Falls in 1998. And so it had it. So as time would have it, the athletic director position came open simultaneously, almost when I was appointed as a teacher, and I was going to continue coaching, but the job came open, and I threw my name in, and here I am today. I was appointed as athletic director in 1998. I am in year 27. I'll finish year 27 here at the end of the school year, and it's been quite a ride, that's for sure.
Boy, it's hard to believe. 27 years, and all the things that you've seen in Beaver Falls sports through that time, and it's a school that no matter what happens, their sports program is going to get a lot of attention, and that means you're going to get a lot of attention, and that means that your job is just so much busier at a school like Beaver Falls because people expect so much from their sports program, right, Jim?
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, as you know, Steve, there's a lot of pride in this community, and people we love our athletics here in Beaver Falls, and there's no doubt about that. And what comes with that is a desire. You want the programs to, to do well. And, just as important as that, we are in the education business, and we want to make sure that we are student athlete driven. And, athletes, the students, they come first, and we want to make sure that we meet their needs. But at the same time, there is no doubt about it that we strive and we want that success on and off the fields and courts, as you know, that we've had quite the tradition here.
So, Jim, tell us a little bit for those that don't know. I mean, us that have been around and been involved in it, we know what an athletic director does. But what exactly are your duties as the AD of Beaver Falls?
So, to walk you through that, at least from this standpoint, like here we are, we're in the spring. We're in the spring season. In the spring season, the challenges that we're faced with, obviously, is the weather. And that's a big one. So we are weather driven. Everything that we do in the spring. When you look at your daily schedule, you have to look at the forecast. You have to obviously go with what the weather is at the moment, and you have to make decisions. And it affects the time of when the students are going to be dismissed that day. They could be facing an early dismissal, which means they're responsible for their academics when they leave school before dismissal. And also transportation becomes a challenge because the transportation industry regarding the bus companies here, especially in Beaver County, there is a shortage of drivers. So we are faced with yet even challenges there when it comes to dismissals to be able to dismiss your students for spring sports. Unlike football and basketball, where those events take place, in the early evening, you're talking 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock very often for a kickoff in football. Spring sports, a baseball game, a softball game typically starts at 4 p.m. So therefore, we have to plan accordingly, and the kids, obviously, their schedules get adjusted. So that takes a bulk of my time throughout the course of the day. On top of that, Frank, we are also, it is the time of the year where we're building our budgets for the next school year. So we are doing that, and I have my budget planning meeting coming up next week with our Board of Education, and I'm looking forward to that as well. And also our scheduling for next year. We are in the process of building our fall and winter sports schedules. Fortunately, we are in mid-cycle of the WPIL, so you do get a schedule for 2 years. So the nice thing about that is whenever you're in year one, such as where we are right now, you basically take that schedule and more or less you turn it around. Whatever was home is now away, and you just kind of tweak it. So that kind of helps in that regard. But the springtime right now is very busy with those things that I had mentioned.
And then you also got to, on top of it all, arrange for, with football, baseball, basketball and such, you have to arrange for staff to be able to work those games as well, whether it be the clock, announcing, and things like that too, on top of it all, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so a football game is, there's quite a few that we staff to pull off that event. For our home games at Geneva, we have 3 gates. So you need ticket sellers, ticket takers. Obviously, you need security at the gates because there's an exchange. There's a monetary exchange at those gates. So you have to make sure that everything is in place with that. And we also, being that we play at Geneva, we have to arrange for transportation to get our team up to Geneva. And for parking, we also we have to prepare for how we handle parking on campus for not only our teams that are competing that night, but also spectators that arrive. So yeah, there's quite a bit that goes into an event. And as you stated, the press box, there's so much that happens there. You have your clock operators, you have your spotters, you have your announcers, you have your film folks.
Wow.
So there's a lot.
You got us media guys calling you saying, "Hey, we want to do the game this weekend."
And I'm thinking,
call and say, "Hey, we need a spot in your press box for a place for us."
Right.
Sure, come on up. We'll find a room for you.
Absolutely.
it's unbelievable. And I'm thinking all the bus schedules that you have to deal with. and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's almost like it's so much for one person. And I know there's budget requirements at the high schools. Is there any staff to help you, Jim, or not just you, maybe athletic directors in general? Do you have any help from anybody in accomplishing all these duties, or is it all you?
Well, fortunately, I do have an administrative assistant with me, secretary, if you will, and I've been very fortunate through the years. I've had some good people work with me. Currently, the secretary now is Jackie Turner, and she does a wonderful job and with everything that we're doing, and she keeps me on schedule and those things. It's great to have an administrative help because, like you mentioned, all the details that go into this, they can all go smooth, and there could be one that you miss, and boy, and if it's one that's visible, everybody sees it, and we know where the finger's being pointed on that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's another thing. That leads us to another question: is how is the public toward ADs nowadays? I mean, the parents maybe, or just the public in general. Do you guys have much interference from the public, or things have been running pretty smooth lately?
You know, Higgs, at times, I would say for the most part, things go well as long as communication is paramount. So especially when dealing with parents and informing them what is going on for the week, especially when it comes to facility usage with our coaches, because we've had to juggle some things over the years here. And one of the things that we had to do recently was we had to reseed our practice field, the Joe Namath practice field, and we were actually we actually did not practice on that field, and that was back in the fall of 23. And we had to utilize our north practice field, which is on the other side of the high school. And we also had to use Geneva in the evenings at times. So communication is, I would say, is one of the most important aspects of this job, trying to get the word out to everybody. As long as I'm communicating with people and they know we're on the same page, then the support is really good. But if something lacks there in the communication, that's when some of the criticism comes in your direction.
Well, that's easier said than done because, you know, as a director of the museum down there, you try to get things accomplished, but there's always obstacles that are going to appear in your way. And I'm sure that you have many obstacles that block you, you know, when you try to accomplish some of your duties. You know, Jim, I was thinking here as you were talking, you know, you said 27 years you've been in the position. Have you ever had any aspirations of moving on to like maybe college AD, anything like that, or are you pretty happy where you're at?
Well, you know, I would say probably in the early years, like with like 5 to 10 years, and we were starting to get some things moving here where our football and basketball teams were starting to take off and challenge for section and WPL championships on an annual basis. And there was a time where I thought about it, where maybe if I wanted to move on to maybe a bigger school, but I was really grounded here and still am. It's my home. I had the opportunity, both of my children came to school here. I had the opportunity to be part of their education and part of their careers as athletes here at Beaver Falls too. And I'm so proud of that. And looking back, I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful to still be here.
Now, are you AD wise? Do you do the AD full time, or do you still teach as well?
I do. I still teach.
Okay.
I teach in the business department, so I teach computer classes on a daily basis, mostly in the morning through the years, and that's how my schedule. And that's great, especially this time of the year, because after 12 noon, after 12:30, it's nice to have the afternoons free to be able to make decisions regarding athletics, especially in the springtime, because you could have a beautiful morning and rain could be moving in at 1 o'clock, and then you got to start making decisions if you're going to keep your events on that day. So it is nice to have that flexibility in the afternoon.
Jim, I want to switch gears just for a minute. You know, those of us that went to Beaver Falls, we bleed orange and black, and everyone from around the area, you know, Beaver Falls is an important school in Beaver County, especially when it comes to sports. And when Beaver Falls is good and they're doing well, I think that bodes well for the whole county. Now, it's no secret that last year with our football program, we had a little down year. Our basketball program is not winning as many games as we're used to. What's going on with the actual programs? Is there a little like a little break here in the talent maybe, or what's going on with the actual wins and losses at the high school right now?
Well, you know, Higgs, to speak to that, I would say that we are faced with the majority of our student athletes right now are at the high school level in the freshman and sophomore classes.
Uh-oh.
For whatever reason, the junior and senior classes, the numbers in the participation aren't there like it had been in previous years, and I think that's the big contributing factor to you know, some of the stumbling blocks that we faced this year. And we finished the basketball season much better than we started, and that was we did turn it around there towards the end of the season, and I'm looking forward to next year. Ramon Shepard does a great job. Coach Mooney, it was a tough year, no doubt about it, and he'd be the first to tell you that. And as of now, we are having a very good off season. We have a very good junior high team last year. A lot of those eighth graders are going to be on the varsity, and we're looking forward to the future with both our football and basketball programs.
Well, I'm sure you guys will bounce back like you always do.
Yes.
All right, we got to take a short break, and then Noah's going to do headline news, and then we'll be right back, and we'll have more with Beaver Falls Athletic Director Jim Carbone and Steve Higgins from the Larry Bruno Foundation here on a Friday morning on Driving in the Fast Lane on Beaver County Radio.
Looking for a quick and easy lunch or dinner? Make it the 2 for $6 McDonald's deal. You'll get your choice of Big Mac, 10-piece nuggets, or filet of fish. Pick 2 for only $6. Only at McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Looking for an elevated dining experience with a lively bar atmosphere? Jackson's Restaurant and Bar in Monaca is your go-to destination. Join Jackson's for Thursday Night Live, featuring top-notch local music. At Jackson's, they serve modern American cuisine with a fresh flair. Perfect for lunch, dinner, and now Sunday brunch from 10 to 2, plus Sunday dinner from 2 to 6. Located near the Beaver Valley Mall, adjacent to the Hilton Garden Inn, Jackson's is the perfect venue for your next wedding, bridal shower, birthday, or anniversary. Visit jacksonsbeavervalley.com for details.
We have Art Cornell here from the Beaver Cemetery and Mausoleum. Art, what's new at the cemetery?
We've just completed a new addition to the mausoleum with above-ground burial crypts, indoor and outdoor niches, and family areas. The Beaver Mausoleum advantages include no plot maintenance, the convenience of a heated and air-conditioned building for visitation, and an adjoining private chapel. It's a perfect final resting place for your loved ones.
Thanks, Art. Beaver Cemetery and Mausoleum, serving all of Beaver County since 1865.
Tune in Monday through Friday for Beaver County Radio's Power Duo. The opening act, Frank Sparks with Drive in the Fast Lane from 6:30 to 9 a.m. And the headliner, Eddie Crow, with Something to Crow About from 9 until noon, Monday through Friday, here on Beaver County Radio.
It is 8:31 in Beaver County. Here's Noah Haswell. He has headlines.
Thank you, Frank. Coming up at 9:05 on News Headlines, an Aliquippa resident got a 10-year prison sentence and 5 years of supervised release on a drug trafficking conviction. The case of missing University of Pittsburgh student Sudiksha Konanki has now been given a yellow notice worldwide alert by Interpol. A man dies from a brush fire in Beaver County on Thursday. A dispatcher and 2 police officers from the borough of Coraopolis got recognition on Wednesday for saving 10 lives during a fire in Coraopolis in January. The Beaver County Humane Society is looking for foster homes and adopters after their kennels are completely full. The United States Marshals Service from the Western District of Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania State Police finished an operation to investigate sex offenders. Senator John Fetterman introduced legislation to pay off outstanding student meal debt directed by the United States Department of Agriculture. And Congressman Chris Deluzio spoke this week about the incredible redemption story of Brunton's dairy farm after an unthinkable fire ripped through parts of their farm. For the weather forecast, it'll be mostly sunny skies today with a high near 79. Tonight will be partly cloudy skies with a low of around 55. And tomorrow, it'll be some likely showers, possibly a thunderstorm before 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Otherwise, it'll be mostly cloudy skies with a high near 73. On this Friday, March 14th of 2025, at 33 minutes after 8, we've got a temperature of 46 degrees currently in Beaver County. That's a look at news headlines. More at 9:05. I'm Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP. Also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
And in the world of sports, the Pittsburgh Penguins won their third consecutive game last night. They are now only 6 points out of a playoff spot with 14 games to play. Paul Steigerwald has a recap.
Tristan Jarry turned in another outstanding performance for the Penguins in goal. The two new Connors, Connor Timmins and Connor Dewar, both scored for the Penguins on the way to a 5-3 win over the St. Louis Blues. Ricard Raquel thought he had his 30th goal at 7:15 of the third period, but they gave the goal to Brian Rust, and then Raquel made sure he got his 30th goal when he scored into the empty net at 19:52 of the third period.
Up to Sidney Crosby in the neutral zone, gets it over to Raquel for the empty net, he scores! Goal number 31 on the season for Ricard Raquel, and the Penguins will ice this one against the St. Louis Blues.
So the Penguins win at 5-3, 3 straight wins for Pittsburgh, and they'll meet the New Jersey Devils on Saturday afternoon at PPG Paints Arena. This is Paul Steigerwald for the Penguins Radio Network.
And we'll have coverage of that game for you starting at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon from the Paint Can in Pittsburgh here on Beaver County Radio. The Steelers have reportedly reunited with one of their former quarterbacks for the 2025 season. According to reports from ESPN, quarterback Mason Rudolph will be returning to Pittsburgh. Report states Rudolph signed a 2-year, $8 million deal with $4.5 million guaranteed as well. Let's see what else. Spring baseball, the Buccos, they lost to the Twins yesterday. They took it on the chin, 15-3 yesterday. We'll have Pirates baseball for you tonight as the Bucs host the Tigers from Lee Calm Park. Airtime is 6 p.m. Andrew Heaney will be on the hill for the Bucs tonight. And on our sister station this weekend, we will have NASCAR racing for you all weekend long. Starting tonight, the Craftsman Truck Series will be on at 8:30 p.m. from Vegas Motor Speedway. Tomorrow, the Xfinity Series will be in action on the Beaver 95.7 FM starting at 2:30 p.m. Starting at 3:30 p.m. And then on Sunday, it'll be the big boys of the Cup Series as they head to Vegas. MRN Radio Network's announcers talked with Cup champ Joey Logano, driver the number 22 Pennzoil Shell Ford, earlier this week to ask him why he's so good at Vegas.
Yeah, I always say that's a racetrack where it just takes everything to be good. You got to have a fast car. You got to be able to take the bumps good. You got to have good horsepower. You got to have good fuel mileage. Right? You got to have the right strategy. And it is the Pennzoil 400. Right? I will be driving the Pennzoil car there. So you want to make sure you have a good run in there, a good showing. And I don't see why we wouldn't be good there. I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing what we got.
Again, airtime on our sister station, the Beaver 95.7 FM and 1460 WMBA is at 2:30 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Looking at boys high school basketball playoffs in the PIAA in games tonight. You'll have Erie Cathedral Prep will be taking on North Catholic at Slippery Rock University at 7 p.m. And then Aquinas Academy will be taking on Odo Eldred at Haggerty Event Center in Erie at 6 p.m. Tomorrow on the boys' side of things, in the 3A quarterfinals, the Aliquippa Quips will be taking on Forest Hills at Armstrong High School at noon. And then in 2A, Swickley Academy will take on Olsh at Peters Township at noon, and then at 1 p.m. it will be Northgate versus Northwest area at West Branch Area High School. On the girls' side, quickly, it will be the quarterfinals tonight. Central Cambria County will be taking on Our Lady of the Sacred Heart at Norwin at 6 p.m. And then tomorrow, the Blackhawk Lady Cougars will look to punch their ticket to the semifinals as they will be taking on North Catholic at noon at Hampton High School. That is a look at sports. It is 8:37 here in Beaver County, and it is sitting at 41 degrees. We're visiting this morning on Driving in the Fast Lane with Steve Higgins. He is from the Larry Bruno Foundation, and also joining us via telephone is Beaver Falls Athletic Director Jim Carbone. And they'll be with us up till 9 o'clock this morning talking to them. And if you do have any questions, you're welcome to call at 724-843-1888 as well. So, Steve, we had left off with Jim talking about some of the things with the schedule. And it really has to be tough this time of year, Jim, because you might have a rain out, but then now you got to turn around and arrange for transportation because the game's going to be tomorrow instead.
Oh, absolutely. That is one of the biggest challenges. And also another challenge that we face is making sure that we could schedule umpires too, to be able to handle either the softball or the baseball rescheduled events. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts when you're dealing with the spring schedule, and to make sure that that everything kind of lines up, so the stars align, so you can get the event in. So it is a challenge, no doubt.
Jim, before we asked you about some of the new changes and some of the things that are going on at the high school with your facilities and everything, let's step back in time for a minute. You happened in your playing days, you happened to play on one of the greatest teams in Tiger history, I believe, the '84 football team?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Talk a little bit about, now, I just want to remind the listeners that as long as a history as Beaver Falls has had as winning football games, it's hard to believe that in 1984 was the first championship that Beaver Falls had actually won on the field. Because in 1928, we were just christened the champions, and the same happened to Namath and his boys in 1960. They were the only undefeated team in the Whippeal that year, and after their 8th game of the year, before the New Brighton game, they were already named the Whippeal champs, and the New Brighton game was just kind of like icing on the cake that year. And then here comes the '84 team, which seems like a long time ago, but at the time, it was late in the process of Beaver Falls football program, because we started in 1903. So talk a little bit about what it was like winning the very first championship actually on the football field for Beaver Falls.
Well, you know what? That was a very exciting time here in the community, and also to be in high school at that time, to be a part of that team, to contribute on that team. It was great. And I think back, just kind of to tie into that whole thing in 1984, even the years leading up to that, because football we were starting to see changes. As you mentioned, like the 1960 team being the undefeated team that they were, the only undefeated team in the WPIL at the time, and to be awarded that crown. And I think about the great teams that you played on prior to me, and how your teams would have qualified for playoffs these days, but they didn't because of the way the format was. And so in the early to mid 80s, we were starting to see those changes where the playoff format did expand, and it allotted more teams to enter the tournament to be able to challenge. But the unique thing about the '84 team was we were undefeated. We did win our conference, and we did enter the playoffs that year as what would have been the top seed. And it was great that we had the opportunity to play against Washington, and that's when Brian Davis was probably the highest recruited running back in the county in the country.
What a game
at the time, and he was great. And we beat them in the first round of the playoffs at Reeves, and that was pretty exciting. And then we played Jeanette, and they were a great program at the time. I think they were the defending WPIL champs. And then we had a rematch with Riverside in the championship game, a team that we beat pretty handily in the regular season. And the championship game was a lot closer, but fortunately we played well enough to win, and that was a great cap to what was a great season. So it was very exciting.
What a great season. Now, just to comment a little bit more on this, there has been some big crowds at Reeves Stadium through the years. The game I played in as a sophomore against Tony Dorsett's Hopewell team, we had 10,000 people in the stands. There's been other games where there's been many, many, many people in the stands. But I am here to tell you that playoff game against Washington with Brian Davis, I have never seen more people in that stadium than that night. There were so many people there, Jim. I mean, you were there, you played in the game, that I actually had to stand, and this is the first time this happened to me ever since the mid-'60s going to that stadium. We had to stand in the end zone, like around the track, because there was no seats to be had. Everything, the standing room only spots were all taken, and people were actually standing in the end zones, behind the end zones, watching the game. And I believe that is the highest attendance of any football, Beaver Falls High School football game, was that playoff game that night.
It was. As you stated, I do recall. I know how full the stadium was, and I recall, growing up as a young teenager and elementary student in the 70s, knowing how packed Reeves would get on a Friday night for a football game, and that night was it was like you said, it was jam packed, standing room only. There were people standing on the field, and that was definitely it. Definitely. It might have been the biggest crowd that I remember, but I'm gonna throw another date out at you guys that was pretty full, and I'm going back to 2001, around the September 11th tragedy that was unfortunate that hit our country, and leading up to that week, President Bush had declared that coming Friday a day of peace. So we ended up we didn't play football that evening. We didn't have any athletic events. So everybody moved their games to Saturday. And for us, we had a home game with New Brighton that weekend. And that Saturday, Geneva was hosting. They had a game themselves, so the field was not available. So we had to move our game to Monday night. And we played Monday night football against New Brighton. It was 2001. And the crowd that night, it was the only game, obviously the only game in the area. That crowd kind of reminded me very similar to that night when we played Washington. It was pretty electric. It was a warm evening, and it was a great football game. And we ended up winning. I think we ended up scoring late, a touchdown to take the lead, and we got a 2-point conversion to take the lead, and we won the game. And that ended up being a great season too for that 2001 team, and it was a great evening, and it was packed that night, very similar to the nights that you said, the night with Tony Dorsett, and also our game with Washington in 1984.
We're visiting this morning with Steve Higgins from the Larry Bruno Foundation, along with Jim Carbone, who is joining us on the phone. And Jim is the athletic director at Beaver Falls. Don't forget, coming up at 9:10, Eddie Crow will be here, and he'll have something to crow about. And he will have Larry Kelly from LGKG as his guest. And then in 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, Eddie's going to give away over $200 in lottery tickets this morning. So make sure you tune in for that. Plus, somebody is going to win maple syrup tickets, too, for the Maple Syrup Festival coming up in about a month from now. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more right after this.
Looking for home services? Call Patriot Home Care in Beaver Falls. Their staff provides company, conversation, and companionship to all patients, ensuring medications are taken on time, participating in fun community activities, personal care, meal prep, and light household work are all services provided by Patriot Home Care, all thanks to the hardworking and selfless team members. Call Patriot Home Care at 724-506-8911 or stop in Patriot Home Care, 1225 7th Avenue, Beaver Falls.
It's hard to even put a title on what Tom Young at First Consultants in Beaver does. Calling him a financial planner or an insurance salesman or even a life coach still doesn't accurately describe the experience. That's because he brings dreams back to life or puts life back into retirement.
My job is to create in you the vision of the you that I think you can be, the place that I think you can get to. And you know what? I get frustrated because I see more greatness in people than they see in themselves. I see greater financial futures than they see in themselves. Most people don't believe they can get there.
Find out more by visiting firstconsultantsinc.com or engage in Tom Young's live simulcast presentation on the third Tuesday of each month beginning at 9:10 a.m. on Beaver County Radio and Facebook Live. All advisory services are offered through PL Wealth LLC. PL Wealth is a federally registered investment advisor. PL Wealth is in no way affiliated with First Consultants Inc., nor is First Consultants Inc. a registered investment advisor.
For the fourth year, Push Beaver County is presenting the Beaver County Maple Syrup and Music Festival at Brady's Run Park on April 12th and 13th. St. Barnabas Broadcasting is your place to win free tickets. Tune in Friday mornings from 6:30 to noon now through April 11th for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the festival, along with a half pint of Pennsylvania Pure Syrup and 1 pound of Rosalind's Chocolate in a limited edition Beaver County radio box. The Beaver County Maple Syrup and Music Festival ticket giveaway is being presented by Push Beaver County and Beaver County Radio.
Do you have a lot on your mind? So does Eddie Crow. Tune in to Beaver County Radio every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon for Something to Crow About with Eddie Crow. Eddie has a very unique outlook on things happening in our world today, and he will share that outlook with listeners. We'll also have monthly guests, as well as ones that are making the news locally, regionally, and nationally. So set your clock to tune in to Something to Crow About with Eddie Crow. Weekdays on 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and BeaverCountyRadio.com. Here's the Beaver County forecast.
A lovely weather day in store for us with mostly sunny skies. We'll see a high near 78. Partly cloudy tonight. We'll drop down to a low around 55. Cloudy and breezy tomorrow with rain expected off and on throughout the day and evening, along with the possibility of some thunderstorms. Look for a high near 72 and a low around 59. And more rain and gusty winds expected on Sunday. We'll reach a high near 67 and a low around 35. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
It's currently 43 degrees in Beaver County on your Friday. It is March the 14th of 2025, and it is 8:50 a.m. right on the dot. About 10 more minutes, and then we'll have Town Hall News for you, followed by local news with Noah Haswell. Visiting this morning with Steve Higgins. He is from the Larry Bruno Foundation, making his bi-weekly, bi-weekly trip into the radio station. He's here every other Friday. This week, he brought in tow with him Beaver Falls Athletic Director Jim Carbone, and we've been talking a lot about what goes into being an athletic director and Jim's days back in the day in Beaver Falls as well. But, Jim, let's switch a little bit of gears here with you, and let's talk a little bit about the facilities at Beaver Falls. Some new things happening at the school?
We do. We have a new weight room that we just installed. It's in the middle school, which was formerly the high school, and it is a great facility. It's a much needed upgraded for our athletic program. We were able to convert a couple classrooms into a weight room, and we now have the space to grow our weight room, to increase our capacity. We've increased our capacity to take on the new equipment that is needed today for training. And we just opened it in January, and it's still a work in progress, but Coach Mooney and all the other coaches are very excited about what we have now to offer our student athletes, and it's been a welcome change, and we can already see the results from having that facility and that upgrade in that situation. So it's been great.
So what did you guys do before you had this facility there? How did you do your workouts and things?
So we had a weight room in the high school, and there still is a weight room in the high school, but it's a shared facility. It's a fitness center as well. So we weren't able to accommodate all the things that you need for athletics training that go into that. So we were able to move into this other space, much needed space, a bigger space for what we need to accomplish and what we're doing right now. So that's been, like I said, a tremendous upgrade.
You know, Jim, I'm sitting here thinking, listening to you and thinking about the facilities down there. And, I can't really come up with another school in the area that could top our facilities at BF. I mean, just think about it. We play our football games at Reeve Stadium, which is beautiful. It's a college field. Our basketball court is probably one of the nicest, most established basketball courts around, and it has been since the mid-'30s when it was built. And then our baseball field, which not too many people talk about. And I ran into Bobby Middleman yesterday, and he was at your baseball game yesterday, and he had some very positive things to say about your team, your baseball team. But your field, your baseball field down there is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I can't see another school, I don't know, I'm trying to think in my head real quick that could match your baseball field. But when you look at the baseball, basketball, and football setups that are in place at Beaver Falls under your tutorship, it's amazing. I think it's maybe some of the best facilities around.
Yeah, we're very proud of our facility, Steve, and we love our baseball field. It opened in 2005. It is an awesome facility. Every school that visits and plays here, they just love it. They just the atmosphere playing there on that field. It's fantastic. It's great. And one of the nice things is, as the spring days get warmer, we have the opportunity to host a couple night games, and that's always fun as well. The crowd, I wouldn't say it rivals a football game crowd by any means, but it is a big crowd for a baseball game, and it's pretty exciting when the lights come on and we play. And as you mentioned, our gymnasium, what a historical a place that is. The schools that come in, they call it the pit. They love it. They say it's our favorite place to play a basketball game, and it is a great place. It is an awesome place, and obviously to play our football games at Geneva, to play on a college field, and to play on the turf facility that they have, it's awesome. So we're very proud of our heritage and our tradition, and also the venues and the facilities that we have for our programs.
So, Jim, you had talked about, the new weight room and being able to, be able to adapt more to what the athletes are and what the athletes' needs are at this point as a student athlete. How much in the years that you've been AD has the game of sports changed at the high school level?
So definitely, Frank, a lot of involvement. So obviously the training that goes into it has evolved. And one of the things that's important is that we do the proper training to cut down on the injuries, especially a game like football where it is physical, where there's a lot of wear and tear on the body with that. So it's very important to keep up with different aspects of that as well, especially if you have a student athlete where we encourage them to get involved, to play multiple sports, because I do believe that's very important in the development of young teenagers, is to be well-rounded and to try to get involved as much as you possibly can. But you do have your athletes that like to focus on one sport, and that's okay too. But at the same time, if you're going to focus on one sport, we got to make sure that you're training properly, because of the overuse of certain muscle groups when you just play and focus on one sport. And that can take a toll on a young body, especially a body that's still developing. So Jim, it's very important.
Jim, we only got about 2 minutes left, but I want to ask you, with some of the new facilities now that are popping up in the area, for example, the Elite gym up in West Mayfield, do you guys ever look outside of your facilities and utilize some of these, for example, M7, Elite, some of these gyms that are opening up in Beaver County that are long overdue, that the rest of the country have been enjoying for quite some time? Do you guys utilize any of these outside agencies?
We have, Higgs, and our football team does utilize Elite Athletics. We have a spot every Friday afternoon from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. We have a 13-week session. I think we're like in mid-session right now, and it's been a great off-season place to go for our students that are playing football that aren't playing a spring sport right now. So that's been a welcome change, that they have a facility like to go to that. And on the same lines, it also helps to have places like M7 and Elite Athletics because it provides other gyms especially with the expansion of the elementary programs now. The Bantam programs are growing, and it's great to see those facilities pop up because the school districts are strapped with space to be able to provide for those programs. So it's good to have those for them as well.
Yeah, things are so different now for these young athletes. I mean, in my day, things like that were unheard of. But nowadays, it's a very important part of the development of a young student athlete. Or some of these, these gyms, I call them, that are popping up. And with everything going on with the NIL and the college, there's not as many high school kids being recruited into college right now, and some of these gyms are necessary to promote some of these athletes.
Exactly, and we are thankful that we have one basically in our backyard that's right there in West Mayfield. It's a mile and a half from the high school, and it's great that we have access to that one, and we're looking to continue working with them as this relationship grows, no doubt about it.
Jim, as always, it's been a pleasure talking with you this morning. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to hang out with Steve and I for an hour and talk some sports.
Absolutely, Frank. And listen, I want to thank both of you guys, Frank, to the continued support of high school athletics, not only at Beaver Falls, but in the area, all of our schools. We certainly appreciate that. And Steve, can't thank you enough for everything that you do for the community and everything with the Bruno Foundation. It looks fantastic there. Thank you to you, and the sign looks fantastic. So thank you guys for all that you do, too, for our area.
Appreciate you, Jim. Take care.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Care.
All right, that's Jim Carbone. And Steve, any inklings who you're bringing next time?
No, I haven't thought about it yet. We'll have to, I'll have to sit down and start looking through my notebook and see who I could come up with.
All right, well, I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks then.
See you in 2 weeks.
All right, brother. Everybody, Eddie Crow's coming up next. I will talk to you Monday morning. Have a great weekend.
The 45th Annual Beaver County Maple Syrup and Music Festival is back and better than ever. It's all happening on Saturday and Sunday, April the 12th and 13th at the Lodge in Brady's Run Park, just off Route 50.